Charlize Theron isn't just a gorgeous woman, but an exceptionally talented actress. She's gone through an insane number of transformations for various projects, and it's impossible to deny how good she is at what she does. But her road to stardom hasn't been easy, you see. Let's find out what she's learned about the hardships in the industry. First up, why was Theron exhausted by method acting? Charlize Theron has proved time and again that she's brimming with talent. The South African native has received numerous accolades, including the prestigious Academy Award for Best Actress, which she won for her portrayal of serial killer Aileen Wuornos in Patty Jenkins' Monster. You would think there was nothing she couldn't do after she played such a dark role to perfection, but things aren't as simple as they seem. Theron faced an exceptionally hard challenge on the set of The Devil's Advocate, which also starred Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves. In the 1997 movie, director Taylor Hackford asked the actress to implement the method acting technique for her role. Theron explained on the podcast Smartless in an interview with Will Arnett, Jason Bateman, and Sean Hayes that the director was a fan of the controversial practice, and so actors were asked to stay in character at all times, whether the camera was rolling or not. If you aren't aware, most actors who make use of method acting are known for being too difficult to deal with. But that's not what Theron complained about. Turns out she wasn't a fan of the strategy itself. Charlize soon realized that method acting just wasn't for her. She was already working a pretty hectic job and was exhausted from being in character day in and out. In fact, she said her life had become miserable during those months. Her job wasn't making her happy, but then another worry set in. Did her inability to use method acting mean that she wasn't as good as actors like Marlon Brando? Fortunately, she left those fears behind once she started work on new projects. The non-method approach suited her much better. She wasn't exhausted all the time and was actually satisfied with her own work. Theron's awareness of what worked and didn't really helped her bring stellar performances to the screen. She had left others' advice behind, and we were all better off as well. Up next, why is method acting so controversial? Just a little bit of backstory for you. Method acting was first made popular in Russia by Lee Strasberg and Stella Adler in the 20th century. Since then, you've probably heard more well-known names use the technique too, such as Al Pacino, Marlon Brando, Monty Clift, and Daniel Day-Lewis. The actors who use this technique stay in character at all times during filming. That includes acting like the character in between takes, being called by the character's name instead of their own, and even adopting the character's mannerisms, no matter how rude they may be. The actor would have to think, talk, and act like them from the start till the end of production. This sounds exhausting, as Theron claimed it to be. Plus, if the character the actor is portraying isn't nice per se, it would make the environment really tense for the rest of the crew too. You probably remember stories from the set of Suicide Squad, right? Many co-stars claimed that Jared Leto was sending them really creepy stuff in the mail in order to be as creepy as the Joker. Or what about the time when Leonardo DiCaprio slept inside animal carcasses and ate raw meat? That doesn't sound too good to be around at all. Well, Charlize didn't think going to such extremes was necessary for her to create a believable role. In fact, her prosperous career proves that you can simply act and still manage to bring amazing stories to life. In this case, let's look at some of Charlize's best movies. That Thing You Do. Theron has a very minor part in this endearing period piece from director Tom Hanks, but one thing was clear to anyone who saw it: one day she would become a Hollywood icon. Her breakthrough performance made everyone sit up and take notice of her, and it's exactly what you want as a newcomer. In the movie, Theron portrays Tina Powers, a small-town beauty who dates the romantic musician Guy Patterson, played by Tom Everett Scott. Though she initially backs him up, once his band, The Wonders, starts to get momentum, she dumps him in favor of her dentist. While some of her scenes were left on the cutting room floor, she still had enough time on screen to leave an impact. Just a week after 2 Days in the Valley, this movie opened in theaters, and because it was Hank's feature-length directing debut, of course, every important producer and executive was in town and made a point of going to see it. She was lucky enough to get crucial exposure that set her up for success early on. She clearly had the talent, as evidenced by the fact that her minor part in That Thing You Do directly led to studio films like The Devil's Advocate and Mighty Joe Young. Bombshell. Theron reprises her role as Fox News anchor Megyn Kelly, who, regardless of what you may think of her, didn't deserve to be harassed by Roger Ailes. Kelly is portrayed by Theron as a lone wolf, though we may not know much about her personal life at the station. Many female Fox employees defended Ailes after Gretchen Carlson, played by Nicole Kidman, publicly accused him of harassment. Kelly, however, remains silent and leaves both Ailes and Carlson to fend for themselves, despite having experienced harassment herself before joining the network. The sequence in Bombshell where Kayla Pospisil, played by Margot Robbie, accuses Kelly of not standing out offended the real Megyn Kelly, who called it victim blaming. Eventually, Theron's Kelly does help Kayla come forward, but she's not exactly a sympathetic ear because she's always thinking about herself. The real Kelly even admitted that she could have done more to aid other victims. The secret to Theron's vulnerable portrayal of Kelly is that she doesn't judge her conflicted feelings. You may have different opinions on the movie as a whole, but even its harshest critics had to be impressed with Theron's Oscar-nominated performance. Mad Max: Fury Road. Once again, the fans may have had a variety of opinions about Fury Road, but one thing was certain: Charlize Theron was outstanding in this film. Because the actress's ferocity and physicality in her role as Imperator Furiosa, her fearless performance will be remembered for decades to come. Though one of Immortan Joe's lieutenants, she went on to betray him and escaped with his 5 wives, one of whom is with child. Although Tom Hardy may be the protagonist, Furiosa is actually the main character. It's time to recognize this female road warrior as Fury Road's true hero because she spearheads the uprising against Joe and almost loses her life in the process as well. While we love that director George Miller wants to produce another film about Furiosa, who was one of the toughest characters, male or female, to ever on the big screen, it's surprising that he ditched Charlize Theron in favor of telling a story of her early years. The reason Furiosa is such a unique character is because of the actress who created her. Frankly, Theron deserves more credit than she gets. Monster. Of course, Monster is at the top of our list. Sure, fewer people saw this 2003 crime film than saw Fury Road, but don't forget that this movie got Theron her Oscar. Although Theron's performance as Furiosa is just one of a kind, it was Monster that solidified her standing as a top-tier performer. As the serial killer Aileen Wuornos, Theron ceases to exist as she completely vanishes into the role. If you haven't seen images of her character, you'll probably not even recognize her. She reportedly gained 30 pounds for the role, along with shaving her eyebrows and wearing prosthetic teeth. Theron does a remarkable job delving into the damaged psyche of Wuornos, a former street prostitute who murdered 7 men between 1989 and 1990. And what's more, she allowed us to empathize with this lost soul, even though the woman was truly a monster. She reminds us that Aileen wasn't born that way, but that she had a difficult life that made her what we saw. We can go on. And you know what? We will. Wuornos' reputation as a serial killer makes most people think that Monster is primarily a serial killer film, but this film also has an unexpectedly tender romantic side that is rarely ever mentioned. Although Aileen's goodness isn't out for very long, Christina Ricci, who played Wuornos' semi-fictionalized lover Selby Wall, brought out the best in Aileen. Although Theron's shocking transformation and her fierce performance will be remembered, a little romance went a long way in this film, and the first kiss at the roller skating rink was one of its best moments. There's a reason Roger Ebert ranked Monster as the 3rd best movie of the decade and said that Charlize Theron offers one of the greatest performances in the history of cinema. Even though it's difficult to watch, let alone watch again, the movie is remarkable and is Theron's best work in her 25-year career. You'll find it impossible to look away because she is just that good at being bad. Do you think method acting works for actors on set? Do you think anyone should be using this technique to act?
Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this.
Let us know what are your 7 favorite movies in the comments. We'll see you back soon.